Today will be the last battle in the zone. A bloody battle, a hard battle. Our foe is strong, mighty, and numerous. He knows neither fear nor mercy, and he does not shrink from death. Yet when I look into your eyes, my brothers, I see the very same fear that has gripped my own heart all this time. And so I ask you,
What is brotherhood, comrades? Lieutenant Victor Graves, a promising young duty officer, was the result of an experimental leadership program developed by Duty High Command. According to the new regulations, my responsibilities are straightforward. Recruit soldiers, equip soldiers, train soldiers, bury soldiers, preferably in that order. The essence of my job, like any army officers, is organizing troops. If I have to pick up a weapon myself, then I've clearly fucked up. After reporting to the general and confirming my readiness for service, I immediately received my first assignment. Eliminate Tolai Grabber at the truck cemetery. Now we need a squad, and Senior Private Rogoza, whose chin could be used to forge steel, along with Senior Sergeants Nikulin and Kolondar, seem perfect for the task. Upon arriving at the truck cemetery, we found the guy we needed very quickly. Tolai Grabber was grabbed by the balls along with 3 bandits who had clearly taken a wrong turn somewhere in life. Thanks to the incredibly convenient companion commands that I spent roughly an hour configuring for maximum efficiency, missions like this are absolutely no problem for me. Don't get cocky, son. After collecting our reward, we immediately move on to the next task, eliminating a dangerous mutant at the very same truck cemetery. We equip Private Rogoza with a freshly acquired SKS and head out to hunt this mammoth. Unfortunately, we get ambushed by bandits and my men become slightly confused. Taking up a comfortable observation point for Battlefield Command, I watched Private Rogoza absorb an entire magazine into his chest, crouch down, spend several seconds deciding which weapon to pull out and settle on dying instead. Yep, my troops clearly require additional training. For some reason, the bandits also seem convinced that a harmless man with binoculars is the highest priority target on the battlefield. Oh fuck, not you. After resolving that unfortunate situation, we finally find the mammoth in question. Sergeant Nikulin was quite literally launched into the afterlife by the creature, while Sergeant Kolontar was simply eaten. This is not exactly how I imagined my military career beginning. After recruiting 2 replacement volunteers and establishing what is rapidly becoming a cemetery franchise, we finish off the wounded creature before moving to garbage for another extermination mission. After all, if not duty, then who? After shooting a few renegades and Clear Sky members, we successfully push the last mutant boar into an anomaly and march off to collect our reward with a sense of accomplishment. After that, we begin yet another dangerous mutant extermination operation, this time at army warehouses. Along the way, we reduce the local population of rabid dogs on our own territory. Good job, lads, good job. Who the fuck did this? After removing a bullet from the back of my skull, we proceed to exterminate what I can only assume are controller children, judging by their size. Fortunately, unlike me, my boys aren't afraid of psychic attacks, mostly because there is nothing in there to attack. Once that's done, we return to the truck cemetery yet again, this time to recover some important documents hidden in bushes on top of a hill. As a reward for outstanding service, I hand Sergeant Valentinov a looted Groza rifle. Since we were already there for the 100th time, I decided we might as well destroy the local bandit checkpoint. Overall, my men performed quite well, though while attempting to piss on the dying Arkasha gangster, I got punched in the face and instinctively responded by stabbing him. Good work, boys. Let's go home. After trading my military scat suit for a duty one, I continued spoiling Sergeant Valentinov like a prized doll. Just look at this handsome bastard. Early the next morning, we set out to rescue our undercover agent from freedom. Unfortunately, the moment we reached the truck cemetery transition, we walked straight into a Clear Sky ambush and lost another man. Seeing that the odds were clearly against us, I ordered a retreat. Returning later with reinforcements, we proceeded to beat the living shice out of these blue-clad bastards. Unfortunately, Sergeant Valentinov decided to transform into a lamppost in the middle of the battle and contribute absolutely nothing. Whether he failed to catch the fighting spirit or simply disconnected from reality remains unknown. The result was the same. He died. F in chat for Valentinov. His armor was subsequently inherited by Sergeant Fuzin. After looking around for a bit, we locate the Freedom Squad we are searching for. The guy carrying the SVD is supposedly the agent we are meant to rescue. Unfortunately, my men were not particularly interested in such details. They simply turned everyone into minced meat and instantly failed the mission. Still, I'd be a lesser officer if I didn't protect my soldiers from upper management. So I informed the general that our operative had defected to Freedom under the corrupting influence of their degenerate lifestyle and refused all attempts at cooperation, leaving us with no option but to terminate him. The general thanked me for my service. As for me, I went off to educate my troops. You idiots are gonna be doing exercises until stupidity becomes physically incapable of remaining inside your bodies. My final assignment before promotion was to infiltrate the Agroprom underground and retrieve some documents for the military. It honestly could have been a fairly routine operation if not yet another squad of Clear Sky soldiers standing in our way, forcing me to bravely command the battle from the back of a truck. My men performed admirably, feeding plenty of lead to the swamp dwellers without suffering a single casualty, and after personally confirming that Arthur Handicapped was indeed handicapped, we headed underground. Dealing with the Bureau and the Poltergeist wasn't much of a problem either, but after securing the documents, getting out of the underground turned out to be significantly more difficult. You see, fighting a group of bandits on a spiral staircase placed us in a rather tactically unfavorable position. Sergeant Krieger nearly met his ancestors, and I discovered an unpleasant little detail. NPCs cannot damage key characters, which meant I had no choice but to take matters into my own hands and help Refer fall onto my knife. 3 times. Unfortunately, Sergeant Fuzin did not survive the massacre, and his career has now come to an end. After recovering the damned suit and collecting my reward from the military, the general proudly promoted me to captain. More importantly, I could now bring a larger squad into the field. The general was very pleased with my recent successes, especially after the loss of Yanov to Freedom and several other setbacks throughout the zone. Duty was counting on me, and I would not let them down. Sergeant Baturin, welcome to the unit. This armor has served several men before you. All of them are dead, but that's hardly the armor's fault. Treat it well. Private Bridge, what in God's name is that thing you are holding? There we go, much better. Now then, morning exercise, gentlemen. Our next task was to recover the body of a fallen duty soldier in wild territory. To be completely honest, I'm not entirely sure how these random assignments contribute to duty's ultimate victory of the destruction of the zone, but I assume headquarters knows better. Maybe they're still testing me. Holy fuck, get them, boys! The battle in wild territory turned into a complete disaster for the enemy. Neither Freedom nor the mutants nor the mercenaries were able to stop duty's victorious advance. After handing out another round of rewards, delivering a heartfelt speech about how much I loved my men and how badly I wanted to have children with them, I decided to lead the squad to Yantar. The scientists had been complaining about the creatures infesting their laboratory for quite some time, so I figured we'd take the initiative, clear the place out, and put my soldiers through a proper test while we were at it. Forward, boys, forward! Overall, they performed quite well, which wasn't surprising considering most of the mutants seemed far more interested in attacking me than them. Unfortunately, after reaching the sewers, I encountered the most severe act of insubordination in my military career. The fuck are you doing? Why are you standing there? Is this a mutiny? No matter what I tried, the men flatly refused to move any further. Left with no alternative, I was forced to abort the operation and return to Rostock. Attention! Stand straight! An incident like this should probably be punished by decimation. But there are only 6 of them, so I simply executed a couple as a lesson for the others. For insubordination during a combat operation, as well as the disruption of said operation, this squad is hereby sentenced to... cremation. Let the rest of you learn from this and think carefully about why you are here. Sergeant, everything is under control. Please do not interfere. After that rather grim morning, Colonel Petrenko assigned us an urgent mission to repel a major bandit attack on Garbage. Fortunately, my reinforcements had already arrived, and together we marched off to defend the area. To be honest, we barely even felt the bandit waves. They came, they died, and that was about it. After returning to headquarters and informing command that we were bored and eager to contribute more actively to duty's victory, we were sent to clear Lab X-18. Unfortunately, Sergeant Petrov was so impressed by the atmosphere of the dungeon that he decided to remain there forever. Seriously, why is everyone a sergeant? I think duty has less privates. Who keeps handing out these ranks? But let's be honest, exterminating mutants means very little while endless streams of bandits continue pouring out of Dark Valley. Eventually, I decided it was time to put an end to that problem and finally free up duty's resources. The bandits clearly did not expect 6 duty soldiers to bring their entire enterprise crashing down. Oi! Jesus, leave me alone. Oh. I had to personally eliminate several key figures, but after 20 minutes of non-stop fighting, the base was destroyed. The victory cost us 3 more men, but weren't those some of the most useful deaths in recent duty history? We practically crippled the bandit threat in the zone in exchange for 3 soldiers. That's practically free. Sergeant Mamaev, wear this armor with honor. It has been passed down from generation to generation within my squad. Sergeant Rotan, these weapons are yours. You have earned them through your service. The general, however, was less impressed by my initiative. Despite the success of the operation, he gave me a thorough dressing down, reminding that we could not afford to throw away personnel whenever I felt inspired. My observation that we'd almost certainly saved more lives than we'd lost was not taken into consideration, and instead, I found myself sent to the truck cemetery at night to hunt dangerous mutants. Along the way, we encountered another group of duty soldiers who were also hunting mutants in the area. Having apparently heard stories of my recent victories, they expressed a desire to join my unit. Unfortunately, the local bloodsuckers also expressed a strong desire to kiss me deeply and passionately without my consent. Kind of like my father's distant relative, Uncle Roy, who once visited our house when I was a kid and introduced me to beer for the first time. I must have gotten really drunk because a few hours later I woke up with my pants around my ankles. I never saw Uncle Roy again. As it turned out, he wasn't really related to us. Anyway, whether because of my achievements or in the hope that additional responsibility might calm down my growing ambition, the general eventually promoted me to major and sent me to bed. After waking up, I began the day the same way I always did. Physical training for the troops, distributing weapons to the newcomers, and generally pretending I was running a professional military organization instead of a collection of heavy armed morons. Looking around the base, I eventually came to a realization. It wasn't right to keep my war dog sleeping under the open sky. Gentlemen, I build you a barracks. Refrigerators, a proper fireplace, beds, one of them even heated, and of course, a personal storage box for every man in the squad. It can survive in a mission, which is really the only quality that matters around here. Soon afterward, my elite assault group of exceptionally handsome and muscular gentlemen was tasked with clearing Bloodsucker village of freedom cocksuckers. Despite losing 1 man during the operation, I found myself encouraged by the assignment. Were we finally preparing for an assault on Freedom's base? Had headquarters finally embraced my vision? Of course not. Instead, we were immediately ordered to head to the Great Swarms, link up with the military and clear the area of mutants and renegades. Then what exactly had my boys just spilled blood for? Still, orders were orders. Men, form up. We are moving out through cordon. Kill every piece of shit that gets in our way. And no casualties, gentlemen. Don't ruin my report. After honoring the fallen, we swept through cordon like a hurricane, leaving very few survivors behind. One exception was Toha Nickel. The kid sang so beautifully from his deathbed that he practically convinced me he was ready to join duty. Well, son, nobody forced those words out of your mouth. Here's a rifle, the armor you'll have to earn. At the very least, my boys had now somebody new to bully. Don't get up, boys, we'll be done in a minute. Just look at my lads, absolute warriors. Feeling an unexpected surge of fatherly affection, I decided to reward them and spend my own money buying every man in the squad a pack of cigarettes. After that, we finally headed to the swamps and linked up with a military outpost, whose officers brought me up to speed. A large mutant pack had been spotted beyond the bridge. An even larger force of renegades had been spotted near the boat station. To assist us, Command assigned another 7 men to the operation. 16 soldiers. At that moment, I felt completely unstoppable. Now that's the spot you can command a battle from. Over there, guys. Move your ass, you piece of shit! If it were up to me, boys, every one of you would be getting a medal. Excellent work. Unfortunately, after counting heads once everything was over, I discovered that I'd lost 2 military personnel and 1 duty soldier. A costly victory, but a victory nonetheless. On the way back, however, we walked straight into a clear sky ambush, and that cost me another military soldier. That was the final straw. For too long, those bastards had been drinking our blood. Convincing the surviving military personnel to help me wipe out the Clear Sky base wasn't particularly difficult. They'd had a grudge against them for years, and my own soldiers would have followed me into a gravitational anomaly, if I'd ask nicely. So we descend upon their hidden little stronghold like a tsunami. My war gods were unstoppable. The Desert Eagle handled every key target the squad couldn't damage, and while chasing down Spore, I suddenly realized I'd forgotten to bring enough ammunition, resulting in a pursuit that ended with an old-fashioned fistfight. By sunrise, Clear Sky was gone. The survivors returned home and collapsed into their new barracks, while I spent the evening placing crosses for the dead. Duty soldiers, military personnel, it didn't matter. If they died under my command, they were my responsibility. Toha Nickel, unfortunately, did not survive the night. Wakey wakey, inspection! Let's see what you've got in these boxes.
Holy Jesus! What is that?
Whose crate is full of chocolate? Is somebody's life not sweet enough already? Sergeant Rattan, I'm talking to you, you piece of shit! By morning, the entire duty base was buzzing. News of my victory over the bandits had inspired everyone. News of my victory over Clear Sky had given duty something even more dangerous. Hope. For years, duty had been fighting merely to preserve its position, to maintain the balance. Suddenly, there was an officer walking around who kept eliminating entire factions every time somebody gave him a squad and 20 minutes of free time, and people were beginning to wonder whether victory was actually possible. General Voronin, however, was furious. A dispatch had already arrived from the military at Agroprom, demanding to know why their soldiers had died participating in an authorized operation under my command. But sir, we won. That's one less enemy of duty. We'll turn neutral factions against us. We cannot afford risks like this, Major. Duty is not ready for a large-scale war. We lack resources, we lack manpower. We cannot survive a prolonged conflict. Then we strike fast and strike hard, sir. Our men will die. They're dying already. The difference is that right now they are dying to preserve your precious balance of power. They could be dying for victory. The general wasn't interested in hearing another word. He stripped me of command and ordered me to remember what it was like to fight my own battles again. For the first time in a long while, I would be returning to the field without my army. Serving duty, sir. My first assignment in this endless grind of pointless errands was to find a fallen duty soldier and bring back everything he had on him. After that, I was tasked with eliminating Vituha Butcher in wild territory. On my way there, I decided to check in on the barracks and discovered an unexpected guest inside. What the fuck are you doing here? This wasn't built for you. The kid immediately started telling me what an honor it was to be standing at gunpoint in front of me and how unfairly command had treated me. Thanks, son, but maybe step out of the fire. Wild territory was exactly as I remember it. The fact that duty's base sat right next door had done absolutely nothing to improve the quality of its residents. Nice rifle. One of my boys would have liked that. Right. Didn't forget how to shoot, Major. The target fled toward garbage, so after chasing him down and killing everyone unfortunate enough to be standing nearby, I ran into a fellow duty soldier who seemed genuinely surprised to see me without a squad. Yeah, got any work? The truth is, I'd gotten careless. After spending so much time letting other people open fire for me, I'd forgotten what it was like to be responsible for my own survival. So I charged straight into a group of bandits without even checking who was who. Sergeant Rotan died for nothing.
Look how they massacred my boy.
I'll bring chocolate to a grave, buddy. How did the general put it? Preserve lives? What about you, Savchenko? Wandering around the base carrying out an important mission? My next task sent me on a patrol on Zaton, where I stumbled into a firefight between duty and UNISG. After helping wipe them out, all I heard afterward were whispers behind my back about what the hell I was doing there alone and what a badass I supposedly was after dealing with those bandits and Clear Sky. Unfortunately, nobody was willing to let me loot the bodies anyway. Here, son, your package. From there, I decided to head toward Jupiter, and my timing turned out to be perfect. At the cement factory, the remnants of Clear Sky were trying to settle scores with duty. Another bright soul departed this world.
Sir, I genuinely believe you're the only person in command who's actually done anything. What happened to you was unfair, completely outrageous. I'd leave duty over it.
Easy, Captain. Tell me this instead. How are things at Yanov? As it turned out, the situation at Yanov was fairly simple. A bunch of stoned freedom fighters had taken up residence there, but luckily another duty patrol was operating nearby and seemed more than willing to help me teach them a lesson and restore some of duty's dignity. After dealing with a group of scene members, we discussed our options and came up with a plan. Go fuck everybody up. The plan was simple, elegant and reliable like a Swiss watch. Unfortunately, Freedom had their own ideas. It took 4 attempts, but eventually we retook Yanov, and for the first time in a long while, duty spent the night under its roof. By morning, another duty squad arrived after hearing the news and immediately expressed their desire to ignore the general's order and join me instead. Well then, push up position, gentlemen. The trip home was a long one. Near the scientist's bunker, we exchanged fire with a group of mercenaries until they collectively shit themselves and declared a ceasefire. It was good to know that at least one of duty's enemies possessed a functioning brain. Further ahead, in Red Forest, we encountered another duty squad pinned down by Monolith and Sin fighters. Every duty soldier I met seemed eager to place himself under my command, and together we methodically cut our way through the fanatics in the forest and the mine. After patching ourselves up and getting some rest, we moved out again at night, immediately ran into a group of chimeras, lost a couple of men and then fought off a monolith force advancing from Limansk. Where duty goes, victory follows. That was becoming a common saying throughout the zone.
Держим позицию.
Major, you've been relieved of command. Yes, Captain. If you are here to arrest me, I won't resist. Negative, sir. Right this way. General, the army has made its decision. Due to your catastrophic inefficiency, you are hereby relieved of command. Would you care to continue serving duty as a private? The general replied that he would rather die with dignity. That was something I could arrange. I now had the entirety of duty at my disposal, an army that followed my orders without question and was fully prepared to die because I happened to wake up in a bad mood that morning. Unfortunately, there was one small bucket of watery shit floating in this spoonful of honey. You see, if I gathered this entire brotherhood together and marched them onto army warehouses to beat freedom into the ground, the moment these brave defenders against the plague of the zone actually engaged the aforementioned plague of the zone, my FPS would drop from 100 to a comfortable 13. Add to that Freedom's heavily fortified base, an equally ridiculous number of fighters who would all aggro simultaneously, and the gaming experience begins reaching heights previously unseen by humanity. The problem wasn't even my PC. The problem was the engine itself. The developers had never anticipated that somebody would eventually try to play Total War Chernobyl. To make matters worse, while the number of people I could recruit into my army was theoretically unlimited, the number of NPCs that actually responded to my commands capped out somewhere around 15 or 16. Everyone else simply followed me around and made their own decisions. As you can imagine, this army required reforms. In order to preserve operational efficiency and prevent this absolute cinema from turning into absolute PowerPoint, I decided to organize my troops. After herding the entire flock into storage, I began issuing commands and identifying which soldiers actually responded. Those men were separated into dedicated containers, so they wouldn't wander off across the zone while I fought with the units that still functioned properly. Because war is not about numbers, it's about tempo, momentum. My troops needed to be organized, fully equipped and ready to replace fallen soldiers at moment's notice. After gathering several dozen additional duty fighters from around the zone and storing them throughout Rostock like emergency supplies, we were finally prepared for the operation that had been looming over this entire campaign. Freedom had to die. Unfortunately, Freedom wasn't interested in waiting patiently for their execution. The battle that followed looked worse than Stalingrad. As you can see, my squad suffered absolutely horrific losses. Which meant it was time to go fetch reinforcements and throw them directly into the meat grinder. Except, it turned out the reinforcements were already coming to me. Yes, you heard that correctly, my carefully designed troop containment system had failed completely, and I got lucky that duty happened to spawn nearby instead of somewhere on cordon. Feel free to give me a fuck you with a capital F in the comments for wasting 2 minutes of your life. I took control of the new arrivals and immediately began spending them against freedom with the same financial responsibility that governments traditionally display during wartime. To be fair, freedom was beginning to crack as well. Their numbers were dwindling, their defenses were collapsing, and an unexpected Psystorm arrived at exactly the right moment to make an already catastrophic battle even more miserable for everyone involved. Later, after gathering every remaining fighter back at the bar, I launched the final assault. After the fighting ended, my troops spent another 20 minutes running around the base searching for the last surviving Freedom member, but eventually it was over. Duty had won. Our oldest enemy had been destroyed. And Wowa Horseman, after witnessing the complete apocalypse unfolding around him, expressed a strong desire to join duty. The surviving soldiers were rewarded accordingly. They had earned it. These men were no longer ordinary fighters. They were veterans, the kind of people who could look directly at overwhelming violence and conclude that perhaps a little more violence was required. Unfortunately, there was still the matter of the mercenaries who had once again decided that declaring war on duty was a clever idea. Rather than waiting for them to organize a response, I gathered the exhausted but battle-hardened remnants of my army and led them directly into Dead City. The mercenaries never had a chance. Before they could properly prepare for the attack, we were already inside their territory, dismantling their defenses and shooting anyone unfortunate enough to be receiving a paycheck that day. It was a glorious day, my friends, the first day of our great saga. Victory, however, did not come cheaply. By the end of the operation, 43 men had been killed. General Victor Graves lived up to his name. Where he brought victory, he also brought graves. Destroying the zone was never going to be easy. Duty alone would never have enough strength to break through the monolith defenses and reach the sarcophagus to destroy the Wish Granter itself. For that, we would need the strength of everyone in the zone. Which meant it was time for mobilization. I would have to travel across the entire zone and recruit volunteers by force. Everyone who wasn't openly hostile to duty would be expected to defend their homes and loved ones. Nobody expected the military to abandon their posts or break their oaths, but the colonel did assign several men who volunteered to join my ranks. He also gave me an APC, an incredibly inconvenient piece of machinery. You're in the army now. Whoa, you in the army. Yeah.
What the hell was that?
Status quo in the army now?
One of the worst I've ever heard.
Okay.
You shouldn't actually even be alive, you snivelling little creep. I hate you so much, I want to shoot you in your face.
Alright. For the immediate future, this collection of volunteers, professionals and future casualties would have to be enough. The best of the best, I would say, for the CNPP itself. Unfortunately, maintaining the quality of these troops above negative values required keeping their numbers high enough to compensate for their competence, which meant I would once again have to endure terrible FPS. My warriors attacked a pseudo-giant the same way the cavemen probably attacked mammoths, with overwhelming enthusiasm and complete disregard for personal safety. They steamrolled every checkpoint on radar like an avalanche, and eventually we moved on to clearing Lab X10. Overall, the boys performed quite well. One monolith soldier even got kicked around like a football. The only problem was trying to force my way through narrow corridors while surrounded by a crowd of armed men. It felt like trying to pass kidney stone through your finger. After finishing the operation with losses somewhere north of 50%, all the rookies died, which is honestly for the best. It was time to eliminate the remaining mercenaries at the cannon factory and begin gathering the toughest stalkers in the northern zone. With them, we would clear Pripyat of monolith forces, establish a foothold, and prepare our strengths for the final assault on the CNPP. The stadium would make the perfect staging ground.
Today will be the last battle in the zone. A bloody battle, a hard battle. Our foe is strong, mighty, and numerous. He knows neither fear nor mercy, and he does not shrink from death. Yet when I look into your eyes, my brothers, I see the very same fear that has gripped my own heart all this time. And so I ask you,
What is brotherhood, comrades? Is it not that which binds us together in this living hell? Is it not that which keeps the crushing weight of fear from breaking our backs? Is it not that which calls forth the best within us when there seems to be no goodness left in this world? And what is duty, my friends? Is it not that which drives us onward through hardship and loss, through hunger, exhaustion, and despair, through battles that seem endless and roads that seem to lead nowhere? Is it not our duty to those waiting for us at home, to mankind itself, which we swore to defend? Even the lowest bastard among freedom carries within him a fragment of duty, a duty to the man beside him, to the brothers who trust him, as he trusts them.
And I trust all of you. No one shall fight as you fight today. No one shall stand as you stand today. We shall cover ourselves with glory everlasting. And if it's our fate to die this day, then let us die as no others can. For none of our foes can meet death as we can. They don't have guts for it. Warriors, forward.
It turns out, if you tell your companions to hold position, they'll stand there forever, even if you leave for another location. Once I figured this out, the solution became obvious. I simply assigned every soldier to follow me individually and started moving them in groups of 15. The assault had begun. The first group ran into heavy resistance from both Monolith and Mutants. At one point, they even decided to engage in a point-blank firefight in front of a Monolith position, apparently operating under the principle of "gentlemen after you." The outcome was entirely predictable, which is why Group 2 was already on the way. The enemy somehow managed to respawn in a few places during all of this, but overall my boys were cutting through them like a piss through snow. Meanwhile, I was fighting my own battle, milking radiation out of my bloodstream and desperately trying not to get folded by anomalies. Ooh. Oh no 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 no. By the time I reached the entrance to the sarcophagus, I discovered a rather generous gift waiting for me. Not just a car, a logistical solution. Now I could shuttle reinforcement back and forth without losing tempo. Inside, my men turned the place into a swinger club. Unfortunately, fighting a war becomes somewhat complicated when your soldiers are both stupid and capable of seeing through walls. Sama Sleeper was the living embodiment of that principle. Do something before I do something to you. The third wave of soldiers was greeted by what I can only assume were leftover Monolith troops from inside the sarcophagus, and they didn't get particularly far. My boys were already in battle while I found myself locked in a separate war against gravity itself. Oi! Guys! Help! Help! I'm dying. Sheesh! Monolith was pushing us hard, and to make matters worse, a UNISG squad spawned behind us and looked just as confused by the situation as everybody else. Regardless, we didn't even make it back to the entrance before only 4 men remained from the original 15. And then suddenly an emission rolled in. The zone wasn't going down without a fight. While waiting for the emission to pass, I finally realized that repeatedly marching troops across the exposed ground surrounding the station was little more than a sophisticated method of converting soldiers into corpses. Instead, I relocated everyone directly beneath the structure near the entrance, shortening their reinforcement route and preserving what little remained of my sanity. Before resuming the assault, however, I took a moment to honor the dead. There had been many, far too many. And yet the objective remained unchanged. One final push. The confined corridors inside the sarcophagus favored smaller formations, so I began feeding troops into the battle 10 at a time. The next assault group managed to reach the upper levels before becoming surrounded. I barely escaped the engagement, immediately sent another group to reinforce them, and watched that group disappear with almost supernatural efficiency. Not everyone performed poorly, however. Sava Patron deserves special recognition. While entire squads were being erased from existence, that magnificent Giga Chat somehow managed to wipe out an enemy group by himself and emerge completely unharmed. Historians may debate the strategic significance of the battle, but there is no debate whatsoever regarding the fact that Sava earned himself a medal that day. After burying yet another batch of soldiers, the next wave finally achieved what all the previous ones had failed to do. We reached the monolith. I was going to smash the damn thing to pieces. No more driving people insane. No more creating monolith fanatics. No more lies. The job was done, boys. As it turned out, destroying the monolith had unleashed a massive wave of energy that activated every brain scorcher in the zone at triple power. Stalkers, soldiers, loners, mercenaries, it didn't matter. One by one, the inhabitants of the zone lost their minds and became zombies. As usual, the road to hell had been paved with good intentions, though one stalker somehow managed to survive.